filled Evan's mouth. Actual soil packed against his tongue, wet and bitter, with tiny stones scraping the inside of his cheek. He gagged and tried to breathe. His first breath brought more dirt. Evan jerked onto his side. Something tore in his chest. Pain ran from his ribs to his spine with such bright speed that his vision turned white at the edges. He spat mud, coughed, and dragged air into a throat that didn't sound like his. The sound was thin, young, wrong. He lay still for 1 second, because the body wouldn't let him do anything else. Then memory arrived badly. Rain, a knife, a boy with acne pressing both hands over the wound, a black receipt burning where the alley light should have been, transfer pending. No, Evan said. The word came out in a language he'd never learned. He froze. The night around him wasn't Juniper Court. There were no sirens, no laundromat hum, no operator calling him sir. Wind moved through black pines above him. Somewhere far away, a bell rang once, deep and hollow, and the sound rolled along the mountain like something with weight. Moonlight showed the ground in pieces, a slope of loose earth, roots, a broken stone marker, thin white flowers growing where flowers had no business growing. His hands were in front of his face. They weren't his hands. They were narrower, the fingers longer, the nails split and packed black underneath. A bruise darkened the left wrist in the shape of a grip. The right palm had been cut open from thumb to heel, and dried blood had cracked there in red-brown lines. Fresh blood covered the fingers. Evan scrambled backward. His shoulder struck something soft. For one stunned moment, he thought it was a garbage bag. Then moonlight found a pale cheek, a slack mouth, and a throat opened too cleanly for any living argument. A dead man lay beside him in the dirt. He wore the same gray robe Evan wore, though his was better made and tied with a narrow green cord. One hand had curled near his chest. The other lay palm up in the mud, fingers stiff around nothing. Evan stared at him. The dead man's eyes were half open. No, Evan said again, because his vocabulary had become a small room. His stomach tried to empty itself. There was almost nothing in it. Bitter fluid came up anyway, and the movement folded him around a pain so deep it felt structural. Something was wrong inside this body. Not stabbed wrong. He knew stabbed wrong. This was older and more organized. When he tried to push himself up, thin lines of fire ran through his arms and belly, branching under the skin like cracked glass. His legs trembled. His breath snagged on the left side, where 2 ribs might have been broken or simply tired of participating. He reached for his phone. His hand found a cloth belt, a torn sleeve, and a flat piece of something hard hanging against his hip. No phone. Of course, no phone. The hard thing was a token. Evan pulled it free with shaking fingers. It was palm-sized, made of dark wood banded in cheap bronze. One corner had snapped off. Characters had been burned into the face of it in neat vertical lines. He couldn't read them. Then he could. The meaning opened behind his eyes with a pressure that made him gasp. Ashen River Sect. Outer Disciple. Han Rui. The token slipped in his bloody fingers. Han Rui, he whispered. The name didn't belong to him. The body heard it anyway. A flash tore through him. Gray stone under his knees. Laughter above him. Someone saying, "A gutter dog with broken meridians still wants spirit stones?" A boot struck his ribs. Another voice, lazy and young. "If he admits it, break only one arm. If he keeps lying, both." Hanrui's voice, raw from shouting, "I didn't steal them." The flash ended. Evan was back in the dirt with the dead man and the token, and a pain that now had history. He tried to stand. The body refused the plan. His knees buckled before he got one foot under him. He caught himself on the dead man's sleeve, hated the contact, and hated more that he didn't let go right away. The dead man's body was leverage. Leverage was useful. Evan hadn't died long enough ago to become above practical things. That thought steadied him in a way grief hadn't. Practical? He needed practical. He was in an unfamiliar body, wearing an unfamiliar robe beside a murdered disciple in a ravine that looked very much like a place people used when they didn't want bodies found too soon. And someone had beaten this Han Rui while calling him a thief. Fine. Not fine. But information. Evan searched the dead man's belt with 2 fingers and an apology he didn't say aloud. There was a second token, smoother than his own. Kang Lu, storehouse attendant. Ashen River sect, a storehouse attendant. A theft accusation, a dead witness. That's bad, Evan said. His new voice made the understatement worse. Something rustled above the ravine. Evan went flat on instinct. Lantern light moved between the pines. 2 figures came down the slope, their shoes sliding on loose dirt. Both wore gray outer robes. One carried a paper lantern painted with a black river mark. The other held a short, hooked blade low by his thigh. I told you this was a waste, the one with the blade said. No corpse climbs out after that beating. Wei Shixiong said check, the lantern bearer answered. You can tell him it was a waste yourself. Wei. The name struck the body's memory like a finger pressed into a bruise. Wei Tao watching from the courtyard steps. A white fan, clean boots, bored eyes. Evan's mouth went dry. The lantern swung closer. Kang Lu's still there, the blade carrier said. And the thief? Should be under him. The lantern lifted. Evan looked at the dead storehouse attendant, looked at the slope, looked at the narrow black mouth of a drainage cut half hidden under roots 3 body lengths away. 3 body lengths might as well have been his old commute. The lantern bearer swore. Where's Han Rui? Evan moved. It wasn't graceful. It was barely movement. He dragged himself by his elbows through mud and dead leaves, biting the inside of his cheek to keep from making the sound his ribs wanted. The body had no strength, but fear was a crude substitute. He reached the roots as lantern light washed the spot where his face had been. Blood trail, the blade carrier said. Evan pushed himself into the drainage cut. Cold water soaked his front. The space was low enough that his shoulders scraped stone. Something with many legs fled across his wrist. He didn't have room to flinch properly. Han Rui, the lantern bearer called softly. Evan stopped breathing. Little thief, the man said. If you're alive, answer. Wei Shixiong may leave you 1 hand if you crawl back now. The hooked blade scraped against stone outside. Evan pressed his bloody palm over his mouth. Another memory tried to rise. A small room. Shelves. Kang Lu's frightened face. A cloth pouch shoved into Han Rui's sleeve. Run if you want to live. Then the courtyard again. The pouch hitting the stones. 3 dull white spirit stones rolling out for everyone to see. Han Rui saying, He gave them to me. Kang Lu already gone. Wei Tao smiling. The memory buckled under pain and vanished. Evan understood enough. Han Rui hadn't stolen the stones, or had stolen them in the technical way a drowning man stole a rope when someone threw it and denied owning one. Kang Lu had given him something. Wei Tao had arranged for that something to be proof. Then Kang Lu had died. Now Han Rui was supposed to be dead too. Efficient. Evan disliked efficient cruelty. It left so little room to negotiate. The blade carrier crouched at the mouth of the cut. Evan could see the hem of his robe through a screen of roots. There's blood here. Then pull him out. You pull him out. I have the lantern. Evan almost laughed. It came out as one silent shake through his chest. Pain punished him for it. The blade slid into the drainage cut. Not far. The man was probing, not entering. The hooked point scraped along stone, caught in weeds, withdrew, then came in again. Evan looked around with frantic care. The cut continued behind him into darkness, too narrow to crawl fast, wide enough to die slowly if he got stuck. There was a loose stone by his knee. He picked it up. The blade came in a third time. Evan waited until the hook passed his wrist. Then he struck the stone down on the flat of the blade with everything the body had left. The sound cracked through the culvert. The man outside yelped and dropped the weapon. Evan grabbed the hooked blade by its wrapped handle and pulled it into the dark. For one perfect second, no one understood what had happened. Then both men started shouting. Evan crawled. He crawled through cold water and root hair, dragging the stolen blade under him with one arm, while his ribs filed complaints with every god in reach. Behind him, the lantern bearer yelled for someone named Senior Brother Ma. The blade carrier threatened to peel his skin. Neither threat helped them fit into the drainage cut. The culvert sloped downward. Evan slipped, slid, and dropped into open air. He landed in reeds beside a narrow irrigation channel. The impact drove the breath out of him. He lay there with his face in shallow water, unable to move, thinking with great clarity that reincarnation was badly advertised. Far above, the searchers crashed through brush in the wrong direction. He had maybe a minute, maybe less. The sky over the channel was enormous. Peaks cut black shapes against a wash of stars. High on the mountain, behind walls and tiered roofs, lamps burned in long, disciplined rows. The Ashen River sect, his borrowed memory supplied. Outer Mountain, labor fields, punishment ravine. Home, if the word was allowed to mean the place most likely to kill him. Evan lifted the broken token again. Han Rui. He looked at the name until the characters stopped feeling like an attack. If someone shouted Evan here, no one would turn. If someone shouted Han Rui, men with blades would come. That made the name useful. Han Rui, he whispered. The body shook. No, he shook. There was no clean line between them anymore. Han Rui rolled onto his back in the reeds, clutching the stolen hook blade to his chest. He died in an alley. He'd woken in a murder scene. He'd inherited a broken body, a dead man's accusation, and the attention of people who used honorifics while dumping corpses. He should have been screaming. He didn't have the air for it. Something warm pulsed under his cut palm. At first he thought the wound had opened again. Then red light seeped between his fingers. Not blood. Text. Lines formed in the air above his hand, black-edged and steady as a printed notice. Unopened account detected. Current body, Han Rui prior account, Evan Vale. Jurisdiction, Ashen River sect, Outer Mountain body. Condition, broken meridians, blood loss, blunt trauma. Opening liability, theft accusation, murder witness, unsettled death claim, valid claim detected, false accusation detected, fatal harm detected. Do you wish to open Heaven's ledger? Yes. No warning. Refusal doesn't void outstanding debts. Han Rui stared at the window. The searchers were still shouting somewhere above him. Water moved around his ankles. The dead storehouse attendant's blood had dried on his hands. His ribs hurt. His stolen name hung from a broken token against his hip. For the first time since the alley, the world offered him a button